welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have another video for you, something a little different, talking about some series that I am planning to read next year in 2025. Of course, as this year is winding down to a close, now that we're in October and approaching the end of the year, I'm starting to think about some stuff that I want to read next year, and so I figured I would do a video to talk about that. I have 17 series to talk about, so I'm going to try to move through them pretty quickly so that this video is not super long, but I have two series on here that I am intending to finish next year, and then I have three groups of five. So the first group of five is series that I have started and intend to continue next year. The second group is a series that I have not yet started but already own at least a few books in. These might be trilogies, they might be some other series where I already own some books and I am intending to start them. And then five more that maybe I won't get to because I don't own them yet, but are ones that I really want to get next year and start next year. So they're not as much guaranteed as the other series are, but they are ones that are going to be priorities for me that I really want to get to and am fully intending to at least start next year. So to start out, we're going to talk about the two series that I plan to finish next year. The first of them being Star Wars: The High Republic. This series, I believe, is going to be finishing up in May or June of next year, which is very exciting. This is a series that I am not quite caught up on yet, but I'm slowly trying to get more caught up on. I'm intending to read the final book in Phase 2 soon, so then during kind of late this year and next year, I'm hoping to get caught up on Phase 3. My hope is to be caught up in time to read the last book when it comes out. We'll see if I'm able to do that or not, but I am intending to finish this series at some point next year. I also have the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski, or however his name is pronounced, I'm not entirely sure. But this is a series where I have all the books. I've read 5 of them out of the 8 that are currently out. Of course, I'm talking about the entirety of Witcher, not just the main 5 books. But I am thinking I might reread those 5 books that I've already read because I don't remember them that well and it's been a bit since I read them and I haven't talked about them on the channel before. So I might reread those and then finish off the series next year, we'll see. But either way, I do intend to finish The Witcher next year. It was on my list for this year, didn't get to it, but I am going to try to make that a priority for next year because I really want to get through that series as well. Next, for some series that I am intending to continue, first one up, the big one for me, is The Wheel of Time. Some of you may know I DNF'd book 4, The Shadow Rising, about halfway through, and that was last August or so, last July or August of last year. And I really want to get back into this series. I just kind of put it down at the time because it just wasn't quite working for me, but I fully intended to get back to it, and so I am planning to get back into The Wheel of Time next year, hopefully. I have the next 3 books in the series. I have books 1 through 6 already, so I'm thinking I might reread the first few just to kind of refresh myself and see if it can get me really more invested in it. We'll see. Maybe I'll start back up with book 4. I haven't decided yet, but either way, I am intending to continue The Wheel of Time. I'm also planning to continue Discworld, which again, I do already own a few books in, or actually right now I own 1 more book in, but I am fully planning to read some more Discworld next year. I have read 4 Discworld books, I believe, those being Small Gods, Color of Magic, and the first 2 books of the Death series, Mort and Reaperman, which I really enjoyed all of those, and I fully intend to read more Discworld next year. Such a fun series, very, easy to read, you know, they're all short books, they're quick, they're fun, and I always enjoy them, so I definitely am intending to read more of them next year. I also am planning to read some more of the Dune series by Frank Herbert. I have read the first book twice now. The first time I was kind of mixed on it, second time I really loved it, so, and that reread partially was for me to decide whether or not to continue the series, and after having reread it, I really enjoyed it, so I decided I do want to continue it. So I am hoping that I can get my hands on at least the next couple books. I know that a lot of people think that the series kind of gets not as good as it goes on, gets kind of out there and weird, but I am thinking I'll probably at least read Dune Messiah and the 3rd book, and then if I really enjoy those, maybe I'll continue with the rest. We'll see. Another series that I am planning to continue is the Assassin's Creed tie-in book series. I already have the adaptation of Assassin's Creed Black Flag ready to read. I'll probably read that sometime later this year, either that or early next year. But I want to read more of those books because I really love the Assassin's Creed video games, and I have enjoyed the book so far, and it's a kind of a slightly maybe more niche tie-in media tie-in series. So I want to kind of get more into it and cover it here on the channel. And there's a few books in particular in that series that I'm excited to read, like Forsaken, which is the tie-in for Assassin's Creed 3, and a few other ones. So I think that'll be fun. Hopefully I can get to more of those next year as well. And lastly, for ones that I'm planning to continue and hopefully finish next year, I have the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne. I don't know for sure if I'm going to finish this series next year, but I am hoping that I can. The third book in the series and the final book in the series, I'm pretty sure, The Fury of the Gods, is coming out here soon, or has already come out, I can't remember. But I still need to get the second book. I've read the first book, really enjoyed it. I read it last summer and had a great time with it, so I fully intend to finish up that series at some point and at least continue it next year, if not finish it. And then I have, again, 5 series here that I plan to start next year that I already own, and probably will finish most of these because I think they're all trilogies, or at least most of them are. So it's possible that I will finish all of these next year, although it's not guaranteed. I know there's a few at least that I do intend to read in their entirety next year. So the first of those is the Dark Nest trilogy, the Star Wars Dark Nest trilogy. This is the trilogy taking place between the New Jedi Order and the Legacy of the Force series. And so this little trilogy in between these two large series. And this is the next big step for me in the EU as I make my way towards Legacy of the Force. And I already own all 3 books in this trilogy. I was planning to read them at the end of this year, but unfortunately they did get pushed back, so I'm thinking I might try to read them for the first few months of next year. But I'm looking forward to reading these. I've heard some kind of mixed things on them. Some people really like them, some people don't. So I'm curious what I will think of them, and of course I'm excited to continue my journey with the expanded universe. I also have the Conquerors trilogy by Timothy Zahn. This is a science fiction trilogy, which I don't read a whole lot of sci-fi, so it'll be fun to do that. It'll also be fun to read some of Timothy Zahn's non-Star Wars books. I've really enjoyed a lot of his Star Wars books, so I'm really excited to dive into some of his other stuff as well. So that one hopefully should be fun also. I also have the Broken Empire trilogy, otherwise maybe better known as the Prince of Thorns trilogy. This is one that, again, I have all 3 books, so I am hoping to at least start it next year, if not finish it. Heard a lot of good things about this trilogy, and it seems to have been pretty popular and things like that. It was a pretty big trilogy, it sounded like, in the fantasy space. 10-15 years ago, so I'm hoping I enjoy this trilogy. I've heard a lot of great things about it, and I'm looking forward to trying it. I also have the Hunger Games series on here, which again I have all the books for, at least in terms of the main trilogy. I have all 3 books. This is another one I was planning to read by the end of this year. I was planning to spend the last few months of the year reading this, but unfortunately did not get to it, and I'm thinking this will probably also be early next year. I'll try to get to these books. I do really want to get to them. I actually have seen the Hunger Games movies a handful of times and really enjoyed them, so I fully expect I will enjoy the books as well. So I'm really excited to read these. It'll be interesting to see what I think of them, having already seen the movies. Another series that I have is one that I haven't actually decided on yet, but I want to do another series by Will White. Will White is an author. He's the author of the Cradle series. He also wrote the Elder Empire series, which I am planning to finish by the end of this year. I've got 2 books left to go, and I have a few of his other series. I have most of the books in his Cradle series, as well as a few other trilogies and things like that. And so I plan to start one of his series at least next year, but I haven't decided which one. But I am planning to start one of them. So if you have read any of his other stuff, even besides Cradle, because that's the popular one, of course, but if you've read that or any of his other stuff, let me know in the comments which one you think I should go for. Then to finish things off, we have 5 series that I do not own any of the books in yet, but I intend to get to at some point, and are ones that I really want to start next year. So the first one, of course, the big one for me, I talked earlier about Dark Nest, the Star Wars trilogy. I really want to get started on Legacy of the Force next year. 9-book series, probably won't finish it next year. Maybe I will, but that's probably quite unlikely. But I really want to get started on that series sometime next year. and then hopefully I can start Fate of the Jedi maybe in 2026 or something like that. I really want to get to this series. I've heard great things about it, and I loved the New Jedi Order, and I hope I enjoy the Darkness trilogy. So again, really excited to continue my journey in the Star Wars expanded universe. The next one that I have to talk about is The Dark Tower by Stephen King. Stephen King is an author that I've really been getting into over the last year or so, and really enjoyed all of the books of his that I have read up to this point. As of the time of this video coming out, will be around the time that I'm planning to read Misery, so we'll see if I enjoy that or not. But the other 3 books of his I've read, I really enjoyed. And so I am looking forward to reading Dark Tower. I do have some other books of his that I want to read before I start Dark Tower. I want to read The Stand because I've heard that it ties in. There's a couple other ones that I've heard kind of tie in a little bit, and even some of the ones that don't necessarily tie into Dark Tower, like Pet Sematary or It, or things like that. I still want to read those first because those are the big heavy hitter books when it comes to Stephen King, so I want to read those first. But I do intend to start Dark Tower hopefully sometime next year, probably towards the end of the next year if I were to guess, because I do have several other books of his I want to read before then. But I do hope to start it next year. Another series that I hope to start next year is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. This is one that I mostly am interested in because Sarah J. Maas is a very popular author, and I've heard that Throne of Glass starts out kind of more like, you know, young adult fantasy, kind of typical young adult fantasy kind of thing, and then kind of transitions into more epic fantasy as it goes along. Out of her various series, it seems like the one that might most appeal to me. So I do really want to start this one. It was either between this or A Court of Thorns and Roses, and despite the fact that I do want to read that series as well sometime, just because it's so popular and I want to check it out, this one seems to be the more appealing one to me. So I do hope to begin Throne of Glass again sometime next year. Hopefully I enjoy that, and it will be interesting to take a look at this author that is so popular but I've never read before. Another popular fantasy series that I want to read next year is Lightbringer by Brent Weeks. It seems like a lot of people really like the first few books in the series, and a lot of people really dislike the way it ended. It's a very controversial, very divisive ending, which weirdly enough makes me more excited to read it because I want to see what side of the fence I fall on, and that kind of thing. It's kind of similar to Dark Tower as well. I know that ending is very controversial, and I'm excited to read that because of the ending. I want to see where I land with that. But Lightbringer seems really interesting. I know it's a series a lot of people love, and from the things I've heard about it, it sounds like something that might be right up my alley, so I'm really excited to read that. And the final series that I'm going to talk about in this video is the least priority one out of the bunch, but it is one that I still would like to start next year, which is the Wings of Fire series. This is a middle grade fantasy series, and the reason I want to start this is because I want to read more middle grade, even though, you know, it's obviously out of my age range. I think there's a lot of really beloved fantasy series in the middle grade age range out there that I would like to check out, just so I can kind of be a little more well-rounded, and because I think it could be just kind of fun, easy reads, and also because I have young kids of my own, I want to get some middle grade fantasy as well, so that when my own kids become of an age where they start wanting to read those kinds of books, I have something that they can read, and maybe you know, share that love of reading with them, and maybe even connect over specific books and things like that. It's something that I'm really interested in, something I really want to kind of foster that love of reading in my kids eventually once they start getting more invested into books. And so this is also a way for me to kind of get a head start on that, because then I'll have, hopefully in a few years, a small collection of books that I can share with them, and things like that. But it's also a series I've heard a lot of good things about, and seems to be a very well-liked middle grade fantasy, so I really want to read those as well. So that is pretty much it for this video. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it. If you have read any of the series here that I have not read yet, or have finished any of the ones that I started, or anything like that, let me know in the comments what you thought of them, and if there are any series that you are hoping to get into next year, let me know that in the comments as well. So that's pretty much it for this video, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.